So welcome everybody. Looking forward to a lively panel on the topic, supporting emerging economies and building up capital markets, how CSDs can help. I think what we'll probably do, I'm Phil Brown from Clearstream, delighted to be moderating. Let me just hand over to my panelists to do a brief introduction for themselves, talk about who you are and what role you perform. Vitaly, let's check the line and see if you can hear us. So why don't you try and do the first introduction.
Hello, greetings. Can you hear me?
We can.
Can you see me?
We can.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm independent director, supervisory board member for National Depository of Ukraine. I'm linking with you from Kiev, and yesterday, last night we had another massive missile attack on Ukraine and Kiev as well from Russian aggressors. So I might be suddenly off because sometimes there are some blackouts and some internet hiccups on the way. So I apologize for this. I might be off rapidly. So that's a life we live in. So as I said, I'm independent director for NDU. I also advisor to Minister of Finance of Ukraine, and I have some other duties in other institutions. So here I represent NDU, and I will be ready and happy to share some of the experience we have. I know that our Alexei Yudin is also present here, and in the beginning of the conference, he already shared some, I hope, valuable experience of NDU being at war, but
okay, thanks. Vitaly, if you can hear us, we just lost your. We heard nearly everything except for the last couple of seconds, so we lost your audio. But don't worry, we can still see you.
Okay, I'm on. Yeah,
okay,
thank you.
Good. And I was very sorry to hear about what's happened overnight. Of course, everybody is thinking about you, and thank you so much for making the effort to be with us at what's clearly a very difficult time. But,
thank you.
If I could turn now to Vahan to introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, Philip. Good morning, everyone. My name is Vahan Stepanyan. I am the CEO of Central Depository of Armenia. Many thanks to organizers of this great event, especially EXDAS team and Czech CSD. As always, WFC was organized and is organized in a very, very high level. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Vahan. And Adil, if you could just close us out with your intro.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Philip, for introduction. My name is Adil Mukhamejanov. I am chairman of the management board of Central Securities Depository of Kazakhstan, and I'm more than happy to be here, and it's my honor to be with such panelists here. Thank you.
Super. Well, thanks to all three of you. The question that we were asking is, how can the CSDs support emerging economies and capital market growth? Some years ago, it might have been considered a strange question that something which is, I suppose, in the depths of the market infrastructure could be critical to economic growth and capital development. But I think there's a much greater understanding now of the role that market infrastructure can play in economic development. So it's not such an odd statement as we sit here today. So what I'm going to do now is just turn to each of my panelists in turn and ask them to give a short overview of what your role in the market is, and a short overview of the market itself, what's changed over the past decade, and what impact this is having on developing your local capital market and driving economic growth. So let's start with Adil, please.
Thank you, Philip.
And we should have a slide for you as well, I think.
Yes, we prepared some information for you, key points that I want to share with you. But before that, I want to say that we still stay the key infrastructure organization in Kazakhstani financial market. We offer depository, registrar, informational services. We got the banking license and the payment agent services. As you can see, we're small but rapidly growing securities market. What I'd like to share, the last decade, we grown in the equity market 5 times, and right now we're about $50 billion US capitalization. What about the core bonds debt? It's right now almost $30 billion US, and since the 2014 we grow 5.5 times. What's the current big trend on our market is a huge rise of huge increase of the brokerage accounts with the KCSD. This amount rised 30 times for last 10 years, and right now its digit is 1.7 million. So we see a big demand from the local investors to the security market. And as a result, we see the rise of the trading volume on the secondary market on the government bonds. Its rise was almost 10%, and right now it's $4 billion US. And as you see, as a result, since 2017, we are assessed and classified as frontier market by MSCI and FTSE Russell index. But according to latest assessment, the index provides us our securities market already fully complies with all criteria, and with the FTSE we are secondary major markets category, and with the MSCI is emerging markets criteria. So that's the main key points that I want to share.
Great, and thanks, Adil. And I'll come back to that question shortly on changes made to the market in order to comply with things like MSCI inclusion and those kind of things. That is going to be an important topic for everybody in the audience. Vahan, if I may turn to you now, and we should have a slide for Vahan as well, I think.
Thank you. Emerging economies often face the significant challenges when it comes to establishing efficient and robust capital markets. These challenges include lack of investor confidence, inadequate regulatory frameworks, and insufficient market infrastructures. And CSDs play a crucial role in addressing these challenges and creating an environment conducive to the growth of capital markets. And we in Armenia, our company, participants of our market and our regulator, we fully understand the importance of having in our country well-developed, international standard compliant and state-of-the-art technology saturated infrastructures. I can mention that the past 10 years have been a positive period in terms of expansion, development, and volumes increasing in depository services. We as Central Depository of Armenia have opened new prospects for growth of Armenian capital market. CDA now offers a wide range of services, including registry keeping, custody, clearing and settlement, asset servicing, e-voting, online account management, as well as funded pension system administration and pension system access custody. Partnering with specialized international organizations like Clearstream, CDA delivers excellence in cross-border settlement and custody, thus connecting the Armenian and international capital markets. Before 2013, there were 3 registrars in Armenian securities market, and this model brought a lot of problems, starting from expensivity to non-optimal resource spendings. But starting from 2013, we have now one centralized registrar and central custodian in Armenia, and it's Central Depository of Armenia. Taking this responsibility, CDA faces a lot of issues, and the most important issue we had at that moment was finding software which will have suitable functionality, user interface, and will give us opportunity to automate our business processes. After years of searches, it was before 2013, we found and implement Depend system, which is provided by Percival software company. Moreover, we created automated soft, which is called Message Hub, and which is working with all applicable SWIFT messages, Armenian banking payment system messages, settlement systems, accounting, and so on. And what we have now, we have fully automated settlement system. All the instructions are processed in our system without any input from our employees, and a huge part of automated compliance checks. At this moment, we are serving about 3,000 issuers. We're serving 131,000 account holders and have under the custody about 5 trillion securities in AMD, which is equal to 13 billion in USD. 2013 was a year for another great event, not only for the Armenian capital market, but also for the whole Armenian economy. The reform of mandatory pension system was implemented in Armenia. And again, with the honor, I can mention that CDA has an essential role in carrying out of the reform. First of all, with our Nasdaq's colleagues, at that moment, CDA was a part of Nasdaq Group. Design study of the mandatory pension system for Armenian economy was done. After that process, again with our colleagues, and this time with the Nasdaq Tallinn colleagues, we started to develop and implement a unique Armenian mandatory pension system, information system, which is now called AMPIS. This soft is very similar to Estonian appropriate one. This solution allows to maintain a centralized registry of all participants of the pension system and provide fund administration to fund managers. In other words, CDA with its solutions acts as a back-end fund administrator for fund managers by issuing and redeeming units. At this moment, we are serving about 800,000 pension accounts and have under the custody about 615 billion AMD pension assets, which is equal to 1.5 billion USD. Another great achievement that we had during last decade, about which I would like to speak, but my colleague Haik on the first day of the conference presented already this one. It's a CDA Online. CDA Online is an innovation in depository services from our point of view. It's one of a kind mobile application in the region. It's designed to follow up depository and pension accounts from any place and any time. It gives opportunity to shareholders vote online, conduct transfers, both internal and external, follow balances and transaction reports, make online payments, check pension balance, change the units. We had another great achievements during last decades, like becoming members of various associations, establishing links with international organizations like Clearstream. But about those achievements, I will speak about a little bit later.
Thanks, Vahan. And I think one of my reflections on listening to what you have to say, and I'm going to go to Vitaly in a second, is there's a lot of mature markets in the room that would be very envious of your ability to go from quite an immature model to a very mature technical model. and leapfrogging a lot of the, learning from the mistakes some of the mature markets have made and leapfrogging into a fully integrated capital market structure, which I think is one of the benefits of, I suppose, of coming later. Vitaly, let me turn to you now for you to give an overview on what you've been doing in Ukraine last 10 years, changes, and your reflections on it.
Thank you very much. I will be brief. So the market in Ukraine is basically divided into the two parts. The first predominated kind of part of the market is with governmental T-bills, which are allocated, registered, and serviced in National Bank. So National Bank has its own depository, which is basically dedicated to this particular instrument. And the rest of the market is with us. So the total depository assets which we manage is around $50 billion. The client base is quite simple, 11,000 issuers and around 150 depository institutions we are servicing. So we are kind of the kind of institution on the ground which is created to make sure that all the users and investors are comfortable in doing their business in the market. So we are on the way to improve. So the e-voting system, which is in place since COVID started, and total service digitalization, which basically all this COVID and war situation pushed us towards going into the digital area to move most of the services there. So it's rapidly evolving, and every other month we come to the market with some different proposals and ideas. Since Ukraine is mostly known as an agriculture country, which is it's a part of the business and GDP there in this sector. So we actively started to work with other colleagues to develop this part of the market. And agri receipts and warehouse certificate system is under development now with our help and help of other institutions in country. Another pilot project so far, but it will be full-fledged one later. It's a LLC shareholding structure to be placed in National Depository of Ukraine. So that's an interesting and very promising project we are working on. And since most of the businesses in Ukraine are registered under this LLC structure, so the market is quite positive into this initiative we had to develop such system, and it's very receptive from the market. So basically, two bulks of the story. One is T-bills, as I said, is governed by National Bank. Another part of the market is governed by us. Although the part of the National Bank also eventually will come to us. There are some legislative decisions already made. So we are in the process with our colleagues of the Central Bank to transfer the T-bills of the government into our system. There is a way to go, but one way or another, eventually we'll be there. And the market, the T-bills market is $41 billion so far, $1 billion of which we have non-residents participants, which again, I will talk later and will greet Clearstream on the help on that part of the story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vitaly. And I'll tell a little story that Mark Jem, who you all know, and me kicked off our Clearstream's Ukraine story, I suppose, in about 2012, 2013. In fact, if you could put the slide up that's got the map of the world on it, that was the Clearstream slide. We met with the finance minister, and we met with the governor of the central bank, and that was really about talking how the Ukrainian market could evolve and develop in order to make it investable for international investors, a bit like what you were saying, Vahan, on index inclusion and what Adil was saying. But I think what's important is that it's a two-way street. You know, we benefit from bringing investors into the market, but I think we also are able to give guidance, and it's one of the key roles I think that the ICSDs perform, is to give guidance to frontier markets or emerging markets on the kind of standards that we need, not from an investment perspective, but from an operational and legal perspective. And to be honest, the Ukraine representatives at that time were really keen on international access and took some quite significant legislative change back with them to Ukraine and pushed that through Parliament and got the changes made that were needed. So, and actually, each year I have the privilege of attending the World Bank IMF annual meetings in Washington D.C. This year it will be in Marrakesh, not in Washington. We meet a lot of markets which are far less mature than your markets. And what I found interesting over the years is how well prepared those markets now are when they come to those initial meetings to talk about how they're adapting their infrastructure to make themselves internationally adaptable. And you'll see on the chart behind me, you'll see that the markets that we have in blue are the ones we've added in the last 10 years. So our extension of our market links now, and you'll see the same thing from other organizations, is really focused on bringing capital into emerging markets. And I'll talk a little bit later about the impact of that. So on that topic, in each of your markets, you've worked with Clearstream to establish a market access link for foreign investors. We've used that based on the omnibus account model. Can you give a short comment on what that means for the local market when you connect to an ICSD? And perhaps reflect, if you can, about this as an investment channel for foreign investors, rather than foreign investors who may be active directly in the local market versus coming through an ICSD, and whether you've had different experience from the two different channels, but really what it's meant for you to work with the ICSD. So we'll start with you, Vahan, just a minute or so, just to give your reflections, and then we'll move on to Vitaly, and then on to you, Adil. So.
Thank you. We had a big pension reform in Armenia, and now we have 6 mandatory pension funds operating in the market. As an asset custodian, we had to give infrastructure for custody, and this was the first point of starting negotiations with Clearstream for opening accounts. But what we saw, that after opening account in CBL in 2014, our whole market, not only pension funds, showed a big interest on foreign securities. So we started providing services to non-pension fund customers, and based on their demand, we saw a big increase of our portfolio in CBL. At this moment, the amount of securities in CDA account in CBL is more than 1.4 trillion in AMD, which is more than 3.6 billion in USD. Moreover, we are not only the only entity which is providing foreign securities custody in Armenian market, and competition allowed us to bring our services to best standards. And we have a dual link with Clearstream, and Armenian market access via Clearstream was granted in 2016. And we have really a success story with this link, because volumes are increasing despite on COVID-19, geopolitical issues, and other issues as well. Together with Clearstream, we've done a lot for link setup and development, including promotion behind institutional investors. The last one we had in December in London of 22, And at this moment, the amount of Armenian securities in CBL account is more than 80 billion AMD, which is equal more than 250 million USD. This success story allows us to work on possible corporate securities allowance to this link. This, for sure, will give new inputs to link on the Armenian market. Besides above, working with Clearstream brings also knowledge, experience, and culture to emerging markets like Armenia. Our specialists take the example of the best standards of custody and implement them into our market. Thank you.
Thanks, Vahan. And other ICSDs are available, by the way. It's not just Clearstream, but they are. Vitaly, if I can turn to you and just ask for your reflections on what it's meant for the market to, he's my best sales guy, but what it's meant for the market in Ukraine to have that international connection.
Thank you. As I said, we have a kind of two parts of the story. One is devoted to governmental T-bills market, which are, as I said, is quite predominated in the market. And this part of the story is governed by national bank colleagues. So they do have, as you may well know, they have a full type of link with you, and the results of such cooperation since 2019 with you was quite astonishing. So next day after the link was established and started to be functional, literally millions, hundreds of millions of dollars have flown into the country, mainly to the T-bill market. Just one example, the first year of existence of such a link added from the scratch, from the zero, plus $5 billion of such investments into the country, which is quite valuable for us, and the size is quite big. And the size is quite big for the country, and the effect was quite great. Also, NDU has a link with you, but it's a one-way link, and it's mainly used for outbound investments, which was pre-war, was kind of developing. But since now we have currency limitations, obviously in such circumstances, so the volume of such tradings are less, but still exist. Thank you.
Thanks, Vitaly. And Adil, if you could just give us your view, and then I'm going to show a quick slide related to something that Vitaly mentioned on Ukraine, which I think people will find really interesting, but please.
Yes, to be short, with the Clearstream, we've got dual link, and we've got milestones on our way on the security markets. It's 14 when Kazakh tenge became clearstreamable, euro clearable, and the 2018 when the Clearstream opened a direct link to our market, and it took 2 years to triple investments in Kazakh tenge through those links from the Clearstream. And the next milestone was 2020 when we start DVP scheme with the Kazakh tenge, and at that period we rose the investments through this link to 1.5 billion approximately US dollars. And and talking about the other way, on our market we've got quite competitive market with the custodians, and we do not seeking for competing with them, and to be honest, they provide better service than we are, but they took more fee. But some clients prefer using our links through the Clearstream, but maybe because it's less and cheaper than our market custodians. Thank you.
Thanks, Adil. And I think did we lose Vitaly? He was trying. Oh, he's back. Great. Sorry, we lost your video for a moment, Vitaly. What I've got on the screen, if you can see it, is it's gone again. If we can bring the slide back, is a chart which shows what happened in the Ukrainian government bond market, and the different colors are the different terms of the bonds. But you'll see that in 2019 is when the ICSD link was created. Government bonds were around about 17–18% yield across all terms at that point in time. And almost immediately afterwards, they dropped to around about 11%. And they stayed at that level until the war. And even now, with the war, they're still at those pre-link levels or below those pre-link levels. It's not only the ICSD link which creates this impact. There are other things going on in the market as well. But it's clear that, from our perspective, when we think about impact as an industry and how international organizations can have impact on emerging markets, not just in terms of bringing capital, but in making a difference from an economic, social perspective, lowering debt financing costs by 40 to 50% has a significant impact on economies. So I think that we see it as a really, really important function of our organizations, and I think anybody that's thinking about allowing foreign investors into their market or thinking about not allowing foreign investors into their market, I think this chart's a really fantastic way of displaying, how you can keep your domestic market and not pollute it with losing market share, but actually create a bigger market, and that's evident in the bond pricing. So I thought you'd be interested to see that chart, because I think it's a really graphical way of showing what kind of impact these international access channels can have. Just if I can ask the group now, aside from creating that ICSD connection, what have been the other factors which have been important in attracting cross-border investment into your market? I'm thinking about things that you've done on the legal side or the tax side, what's gone on with your currency, inflation control, all those kind of things. You talked about marketing roadshows as well, I think, which I think is important. So, Vitaly, if I can turn to you first, what else has been important in getting the international investors in?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Philip. I apologize. Maybe I will sound a bit strange, but I'm coming from the different dimensions. So we live in a completely different universe, unfortunately, because the country at war. It's been already long time for us to live under such aggression and such a new reality, which basically have put us into very extreme circumstances, and which also has a positive part of the story, because it's always two sides of the coins, as usually. So the positive side of the story, that it's basically have pushed and advanced all the things we had to do before, but we were slow to introduce. As I said, everything is going digital now, not only in our business, but all the country goes digital. All the services of the state is there in our telephones. But as to the main challenge for the foreign investors or any investor in Ukraine, the rule of the law and justice, that's, I think, would be the main driver and main challenge for us. We've come a long way in this, and as I see personally, this is the main challenge. Just to complete the reforms we already started even before the war, with the help of IMF, World Bank, and all the international community, to complete this reforms, anti-bribery reform, judicial system, which is which has a clear roadmap, and it's a part of the IMF program we currently adopted. So there is a clear pathway in what we have to do. The only question is how quickly and how effectively we can introduce such changes, because if you talk to any investors, and I'm sure that you, Philip, and you all guys had the opportunity to talk to any existing foreign investors and potential ones, the first question is rule of the law, justice, judicial system. That's what worries people. So for Ukraine, it will be the main challenge, and I hope, I'm sure that we will go through it. So two things to fight: Russia as an aggressor into our country, and judicial system inside. All the rest are technical in our view. All the rest of the hiccups and improvements we can do easily, but these two things are main one for our market. Thank you.
Thanks, Vitaly. I think that actually that was a really fabulous way to take us to Q&A. And you're almost like a Hollywood actor, the way that you delivered those two key messages. It was really nice and clear. Thank you. I haven't got the iPad, Anna, so I don't know whether there are any questions that have come in over the chat. But if not, if there are any questions from the audience that we can respond to, there's somebody, a few.
So end of the room, Barney.
At the front here as well.
In front row as well. So, Georgi.
Yeah, thank you. So mine is more like a bit of an input to the conversation rather than a question. So I come from Georgia and feel you on the list. So Georgia was among those blue countries that have been recently added. And I just wanted to make 2 points. So first, so the development component of Clearstream entering the market, that's a very important one for the countries, and the panelists have discussed some of the details of those. And so when the ICSD or even a global custodian enters the market, it's usually it's a profit-driven, right? So the objective is to get the profit. But with markets like ours, it's not that straightforward, I would say. And in my opinion, the time is longer before you can get a cost recovery and may make your investments really a profitable one. And I think it takes a lot of courage also on the part of the ICSD and its management to take that step and enter these new markets. So that's one thing. The other thing is that so although we are different, we are separate markets, but there are quite a lot of synergies when it comes to the links. So the infrastructure that Clearstream has built, it's similar for all those countries. So it's a bit different, like from person participated in the process, so I know some of the details. So it's different from other bigger market links. But the fact that they could use the same model in the countries like Armenia, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Georgia, Serbia, so it made that type of link possible because there were certain economies of scale. There are other similarities that help these links to become like larger in volumes and more profitable. Like we have the same investors. Majority of the investors, they are investing in Georgia. They are also investing in Armenia, Kazakhstan, Ukraine. And that way, each of us individually trying to develop the markets, we're also helping each other, actually creating a bigger interest in the international investor community and bringing more investors to our markets. So these are the 2 points I just wanted to add to the conversation.
Yeah. And if I can just comment on it, I think that a couple of things. The first thing is, it really is a part, and it's very easy to use the word partnership in this context, but it genuinely is a partnership. You know, including you know, us going on the investor roadshows with you into London or into the US to kind of talk about the infrastructure, not just about the investment opportunities. I think, and what we've learned from working with you all is it's too big a jump because of the costs of doing this, right? It's too big a jump to go to a fully fledged kind of German, US, UK style infrastructure. So we do have like an interim model that we utilize, which we use with all of you, right? Which is it's a lighter access model, but it does create that first step to create the market growth. And I thought, so it's a good point actually that, you know, it's been really important to find a good compromise between a reasonable cost access channel and finding ways to bring investors into the market.
Perfect. Thank you very much indeed. So we can be taking indeed the very last question because we are running a bit out of time. So Barnaby.
Thanks very much. Phil, you touched at the beginning on you mentioned MSCI. I was just curious, index providers have a massive impact on, you know, basically the direction of foreign flows into a lot of markets. I was just curious to see, to your point about partnerships and engagement, what role does the conversation with people like MSCI, Bloomberg, and the others have in the whole equation, if you like?
Yeah, Barney, thanks for the question. I think what I would say is that we're somewhat disconnected from that conversation. They act with a high degree of independence. But generally, when we're looking at a market, they are looking at it as well. It's not an accident that we're both looking at it at the same time. But index inclusion is not enough. Right? So you can include markets in the index, but if the infrastructure is not right, by which I mean, you know, like Vitaly said, you know, trust in the judicial system, trust in ownership rights, ability to settle on the books of the ICSD under a European legal construct, all that kind of stuff is really critical. So index inclusion is one piece, but there's a whole kind of basket of hurdles that need to be kind of surmounted before you start to see significant flows. I think, and that's what we've experienced with working with the three gentlemen here, is that the markets have worked with us and with the index providers to knock out all of those objections in order to bring that capital through. And you can see it in the numbers. I mean, you know, he talked about, you know, at one point in Ukraine pre-war, there was $5 billion equivalent from a standing start going through the pipes. So it's, you know, the money's there. There is international capital looking for emerging market investment, and it's incumbent upon all of us to just make sure that we put the structures in place to enable it to move.
Perfect. Thank you very much indeed, Philip. I'm sure that there are many more questions in the room, but I would invite those who are interested particularly to engage then during the break with Philip and the panelists. Thank you very much for this very beautiful discussion that we have had, and of course for the engagement of the CSDs, having big numbers of links and supporting the domestic markets in their growth. Thank you.
And thanks again to Vitaly for joining us remotely. We really appreciate it.